Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, good evening. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Dakota, Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Councilor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Mendonça, Councilor Mercia.
Here.
Mayor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Murphy.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
7 present, 2 absent.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm requesting a moment of silence for darkened chambers for the following people. For Second Lieutenant Martin P. Murray, who served this country with pride and distinction in the United States Army Air Corps. He was 21 years old, a co-pilot of a 12-man B-24 Liberator that vanished on October 27, 1943, over Papua New Guinea. In August of 2003, the wreckage of the B-24 was discovered, and it took years to reach the site because of its location and bad weather, and another 4 years to conduct DNA testing. The United States government and the military deserves all the accolades that's coming their way. Lieutenant Martin P. Murray was laid to rest on Saturday, April 16th at St. Patrick's Cemetery. May he rest in peace. But I would also like to thank, Mr. Mayor, the Lowell Police Department Motor Unit under the direction of Lieutenant Crowley, and the Lowell Fire Department for their help and their class that they offered to the ceremony. Also, the Lowell Sun reporter Jennifer Myers for outstanding reporting on the burial of Lieutenant Murray. Also, a moment of silence for Walter L. Armstrong Sr., a loving and devoted husband, father, grandfather. Mr. Armstrong was a former executive vice president of Enterprise Bank and Trust and served on many civic and community boards of the following: the Merrimack Valley Catholic Charities, Lowell Catholic High School, the Lowell YMCA Alumni Association, the Old Scouts of America, the Douville Senior Care Men's Guild, and St. John's Hospital Men's Guild. Wally Armstrong was a friend, a mentor, and an outstanding citizen of our city. May he also rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd also like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chamber for Olympia Jubinski, who passed away recently. She was a longtime city employee of the city clerk's office. Ollie, as she was affectionately known as, began her career in the city clerk's office in 1975, retiring in 1991. Ollie was a dedicated employee who returned on a part-time basis to assist the present city clerk and assistant city clerk. She was a valued employee and a great friend to many, and she will be deeply missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mercia. Let us all now rise for a moment of silence in darkened chambers. Thank you. May they rest in peace. Before we actually get into the agenda this evening, we have 2 items prior to our agenda. The first, in response to Councilor Elliott's motion regarding the Animal Advisory Committee, there is a report in your packets this evening indicating what took place at the last Animal Advisory Committee, as well as some leaflets that we're passing out to neighborhood groups. I also did get a report from Attorney Fenton this evening. If you recall the incident that took place in Centerville last year where the police officer actually shot the dog, we did deem through a hearing that was chaired by the Chief LaValle, we deemed the dog to be dangerous and vicious and could no longer reside in the city of Lowell. The owner has requested a hearing before the district court, and that's now scheduled for May 16th. We actually have another Animal Advisory Committee meeting scheduled for May 11th. So I would suggest, again, it's the wish of the committee, but the council, I would suggest that this information that I forwarded to the council tonight be referred to the Public Safety Subcommittee, so we can have a complete report before the Public Safety Subcommittee, and then we'll get a report from Attorney Fenton as well. Motion by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Broderick, that the information from the Animal Advisory Committee be referred to the Public Safety Subcommittee. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll schedule a meeting as soon as possible, as soon as I get in touch with Councilor Dakota. And as you well know, at least 2 years ago, I filed a motion pertaining to this issue. And, it's an issue we have to address.
Yes.
Have to address. And that's all I'm going to say on it right now.
Thank you. And we are having a meeting on May 11th, but we'll certainly have members of the Animal Advisory Committee at the Public Safety Subcommittee as soon as it's scheduled. And I'll ask that, that someone from the police department be there as well. Thank you. Next item, we have a presentation, Gunther Wellenstein, to address the council regarding our Spring Household Hazardous Waste Day. Good evening, Gunther.
Good evening, Mayor and councilors and acting city manager. Thank you for the opportunity. I wanted to, you should all have received the press release in your packet, but I also wanted to include all of those who are watching from home in the information regarding our Spring Household Hazardous Waste Day. On Saturday, May 7th, we will open up the venue at Colley Stadium at 9 a.m. for residents, regardless if you get curbside trash or live in a high-rise. If you're a Lowell resident, we want you to come down. This is the opportunity to get rid of paint, lacquers, thinners, solvents, herbicides, pesticides, mercury products, which include button cell batteries, fluorescent bulbs, the compact fluorescent lamps, all of those things that you don't know where to put into your trash. This is a way to safely dispose of it. We bring a state and federal licensed contractor in until 1 o'clock. They sort it out, they take it to a factory where it's disassembled and disposed of properly. A couple of things of note: we do accept automobile batteries, propane tanks, and the fluorescent bulbs, as I've mentioned. We will also have a Lowell police officer in the health department there this year to collect medical sharps. That includes syringes and lancets, unused and expired medication. So if it's in the medicine cabinet and a family member's passed away or the medication has expired, put it into a box and bring it to Hazardous Waste Day. We take it at no charge. Thermometers and thermostats will also be no charge. We do, like last year, have a few fee items. If you live in an apartment building and don't have access to curbside collection, you can bring your TV and computer monitors, which are banned from the trash, bring them down. Allied Waste will be there, and they charge the regular fee schedule, the same fee as if it were picked up curbside. LowellRecycle.org is our website that has up-to-date information about the event, more detailed, what you can bring, what you shouldn't bring. Things like latex paint is not regulated by the state or the federal government, so we don't want to pay $300 a barrel to dispose of it. Fireworks, explosives, fire extinguishers, and smoke detectors are also not items that we collect. So check out the website, LowellRecycle.org. We also have the information on the loop running on LTC Channel 10. So tune into your cable provider, Channel 10, and you should be able to see some information there. And as always, my office, if I'm not there, leave a message, 978-446-7277. Thank you.
Thank you, Gunther. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to compliment Gunther Wellenstein. We have many dedicated employees in our city, and Gunther Wellenstein is one of those employees I know puts in, how many hours a week do you put in on this job?
Last week was 47.
47
on a 35-hour pay week.
Right. So he's an outstanding employee of our city.
Thank you, Councilor Caulfield. Anyone else have any questions? Councilor Mercier.
But I could echo Councilor Caulfield. He does a tremendous job. I'm very, very proud of him. He takes his job very, very seriously. And anytime you call, he gets right back to you with the answer. I'm just very impressed by Gunther. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mercier. Yes, sir.
On Friday is National Earth Day, At 11:30 in the morning, I will be at the Community Gardens Greenhouse doing a composting demonstration. If you're free, please come down and join us. We'll demonstrate how composting works. Remember that 14% of your household trash is organic and compostable. So if we would remove that from the waste stream, we would lower our disposal costs. So come down on Friday, 11:30, and join me for a demonstration. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Gunther, very much. Accept the communication placed on file by Council Murphy, second by Council Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to the vote. First item, the minutes of the April 12th meeting for acceptance. Motion by Council Elliott, seconded by Council Broderick. Any questions, discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Under communications from City Manager, responses to council motions and requests. Do we have anybody that wants to be heard on we have two items. Council Mercia.
You may be gaveling me down on this one, but I just wanted to state for the record how impressed I was to read that the cold case of 41 years was solved and closure to the family was attained. Much credit to Captain Jack Webb and Detective Linda Coughlin and to the 10 or so others who worked so diligently over the years on this particular case. But much accolades go to Detective Jerry Wayne, who through his efforts made this case solvable and allowed a bit of peace of mind to the family, and especially to the boys' parents, Evelyn and William McCabe. I know that Jerry Wayne has passed away. His son, Eric Wayne, can be very proud of his father, following in his footsteps. To the Wayne family, we're very, very proud. Congratulations and thanks to all of those police officers for a job well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. Anyone else on motions, responses? Hearing none, motion to accept and place on file by Council Martin, seconded by Council Elliott. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Next item, we have a communication from the Planning Board. Dear Mayor Milanazzo, members of the City Council, the Lowell Planning Board held a public hearing on Monday, April 4th, to review the above-listed amendment establishing a notification process for petitioners requesting a map change zoning amendment. During the public hearing phase of the discussion, Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, spoke in favor regarding the proposed changes. No members of the public spoke in opposition. Motion to hold a public hearing on May 10th. Accept the report of the Planning Board by Council Martin, seconded by Council Elliott, and refer to a public hearing on May 10th. Again, the ordinance amending the code of the City of Lowell with respect to Chapter 290 thereof entitled Zoning by amending Article 1, Purpose and Authority, Section 1.7, amendment of chapter by inserting a new subsection 1.7.1 entitled Process for Petitioning Amendment to Zoning Map. All those in favor of referring to public hearing signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. We have one travel, request out-of-state travel. Motion to approve by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Martin. Roll call.
Councilor Dakota, Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça, Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo.
Yes.
Councilor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor
Yes.
Caulfield. 7 yeas, 2 absent.
Thank you. Next item, petitions. We have one claim for property damage referred to the Law Department by Councilor Caulfield, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Going right to motions by Councilor Martin. City Council requests the city manager have the proper departments report on potential impact of the federal cuts in city programs. Seconded by Councilor Caulfield. We do have someone registered to speak. I don't know if you want to, Mark Bowman.
Before we get, there was a second petition in our packet. There was the property damage one, and then there was another one regarding foreclosure on Delaware Ave. I just suggest we refer to the manager. So I'll give that to.
Okay, motion by Councilor Martin, second by Councilor Broderick to refer that petition to the manager for report, recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
And as to my motion, if somebody wants to speak, that's, I don't object to that going first.
Okay, Mr. Goldman.
For the record, good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Councilors,
Mr. Moses, Mr. Martian. My name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. I'm speaking in favor of this. There are many, many reasons for this. Community Development Block Grant is being cut, not just by Congress, but the President of the United States has also recommended that CDBG be cut and Community Services Block Grants be cut. I understand the reasoning because the House may want to eliminate them both. And that would be the worst thing that could happen because they fund very, very important projects, particularly CDBG. Home programs, emergency shelter grants are all part of that, as well as funding for the DPD staff, funding for programs like Jam Plan, for the ACRE model, and for housing home ownership. I also think that particularly with police grants, some police grants could be cut. We cannot afford, with a city the size of Lowell, a mid-sized city, the greatest city in the nation and in the world, as far as I'm concerned, we cannot afford these type of cuts, whether they're in grants or any other type of aid. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Council Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Goldman raised a couple of the points I wanted to talk about. One, I think we were all warned that the CDBG, or Community Development Block Grant Program, would be impacted by the federal budget that was just, I think, adopted for this fiscal year that we're in, runs through October. But I don't think maybe even DPD knows the full extent of what those cuts would be until maybe just very recently. So I think it's important for the council and the public to know how that program is impacted. But I think there are other things. Mr. Goldman mentioned the police. We have fire personnel that are on subsidized by federal grants. We also have two major projects with water and wastewater expansion that rely on some state funding, which may be backed up by some federal funding, not necessarily grants, but interest-free loans that may be impacted. So the potential impact, at least as to what I was reading about, could be far-reaching. So, as to what to do about it, I don't think anyone has an answer yet, but I think the first step is to see what the impact is, and then we'll have to look at what ways we can address it. So I want to at least get the motion in to get the information now that the budget's been adopted.
Thank you, Council Martin. Council Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we did something about it some weeks ago when I brought in the motion for a resolution, and I specifically wanted to target the Community Development Service Grant from the CTI. But then when I brought it in and made the motion, the Assistant City Manager / Planning Director, Adam Bakey, said, it isn't just this community development, it's not just the community service development grants, it's the CDBG block grants, it's the police department, the fire department. So I said to the city manager, let me amend that motion for when that comes up, because it isn't just that, it's an impact, a greater impact. So he took an inventory, so to speak, of every department that would be affected by the federal grant cuts, and then you see that we added a whole bunch more, and so we do know that. So
Thank you. Mr. Moses?
I just want to make sure that everybody in the public understands that there are actually two issues here. I think the earlier motions, there were several motions and responses, were regarding the potential for reductions in the ensuing fiscal year, which begins October 1st for the federal government. I think Councilor Martin is referring now to the measure that was taken to take us through the current fiscal year, which ends September 30th. So we're actually talking about two different periods, and one's a potential cut, and one is something that's been acted on. I don't know that we have a full analysis yet, but we'll get one.
Thank you. Council Caulfield?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. In January, I filed a similar motion to find out how much these cuts from Washington and the state would affect the city of Lowell and the surrounding communities. And I know Council Mercier brought in a motion for a resolution, and Council Martin just brought in this motion. They're all important. And we have to send a strong message out there that there are cuts that are going to affect our city. And as Council Martin indicated, community development block grant funding is going to get cut, but there's a lot of hidden cuts that's going to affect services in our city. Police department, fire department, wastewater, water utility. It's a domino effect. And we sent that resolution to Washington, and I know Congresswoman Nikki Saunders is doing everything she can to eliminate some of those cuts. But as we well know, the House is controlled by the other side of the aisle, and they're determined to cut huge amounts of money out of these services. I'm a member of the Renaissance Club, and all those clubs that are servicing people with disabilities, they're going to receive cuts. And on the state side. But these cuts, people won't realize how drastic that they're going to affect us until it happens. And this is an important motion, so wasn't Council Mercier's motion important? But I brought one in January, and I think the manager did send us some information pertaining to that. But that the country is in a serious financial conditions and shapes. It's absolutely ludicrous and ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Martin?
Thank you, Mr. I know I'm aware of the prior motions, and I think they're all supported unanimously. The only point here is now something's actually been done. And, there were negotiations among staffers of various representatives in late morning hours that, none of us were party to. So now that there's something written into law, I think it's, that this is just the next natural step to what's occurred before.
Right. Thank you. Councilor Elliott?
I was just going to suggest that maybe either the mayor's office or the manager's office gets in touch with Congresswoman Saunders, Senators Brown, and pardon me, Kerry, to see exactly what the impact of the $38 billion is, whether it's the HUD VA appropriations bill, or I'm sure it's going to transcend to the DOJ, but at least Congresswoman Saunders can get in touch with the subcommittee, appropriation committee, and see what that impact is. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed is the vote. Next motion by Councilor Martin. Motion, City Council requests the city manager to add Dan Claus Street to the repaving list. Seconded by Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know recently we were given a list of street repavings that are coming up for this season, but the roads are in pretty tough shape. And there was a headline last week about new Chapter 90 funds being released, so that sparks an interest in residents whose streets are in very poor condition. So I know we had a motion a meeting or two ago about adding a street. This is similar to that. Maybe it's not in time for this season, or maybe there are streets that are worse condition, but I think I think it's important to know how a street gets added, and so people can have a reasonable expectation of when we might get to their street, even if there's no sewer project or water project slated for that street. So that's the point of the motion.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I know I had not really a discussion by email with the acting city manager, Mr. Moses. We did get a couple of, I think we all got them through the website, a couple of streets from, or a couple of citizens with streets that are in rough shape. And that people, I think, should know that this list is online. They can access it. I think Mr. Moses has sent me the link. But people should know that they can look and see where the street is, and if there's an issue, obviously they can try and, call attention to it and get it moved up on that. But I think we should make people aware there is a list, and this isn't as, we're not doing this by happenstance or by amount of calls we get. Mr. Moses, maybe if you could give that link. I don't know if you remember off the top of your head, because I can't recall. It's to the city website, I believe, but it is on the, there is access to it on the website for folks at home that want to see what we're actually talking about and where their street falls.
Thank you. Mr. Moses?
Yes, that's a good point. It is on the website, and if you just open up the main page at Lowell, Mass, or lowellma.gov and type in the search pavement management, you'll get a link to that file. There's actually a color-coded map, and you can see the condition of any street. I do want to mention this particular street on this motion. This is an unaccepted road, so we can't use, at the present time, Chapter 90 funds. However, we're active in trying to get some of these approved, and through the capital plan, the council approved a couple of $100,000 for road improvements that is not state money and can be used for unaccepted roads. There are several on the list for this paving season, and it's not clear at this point, since none of them have been bid out, whether this particular road will be done this year or at a later date, but it is on that list.
Council Martin?
And then, so the funding that was recently announced from the state, is that factored into the list that's on the website, or are there going to be more added to that?
That list on the website, no amount of state funding will be able to work down that list in any 1, 2, or 5 years. It's going to take decades to really work down if we rely only on Chapter 90.
So how is that meaningful then, that list that's on the website? I mean, people can go and see a color of their street and know it's going to take decades.
Well, it is a way to indicate to the public that there is a priority list, and that our consultants have looked at every street in the city. At this point, it's a question of funding and a question of maintaining and updating that list, because conditions can change from year to year. A road can move up a list because of a severe winter, and others move off the list when they get paved.
Right.
Anything else? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Next motion by Councilor Elliott. Motion, City Council requests the city manager have the proper department add a link in the Sign Up Today section of the city website to allow contact with the mayor and city councilors. Seconded by Councilor Mercier. Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually filed a motion last week after getting a call Wednesday night and then one Thursday from two constituents saying that they couldn't contact us. And so I did go on, and I see that there's been some new additions to the website, and it's very nice. And I said, well, I know it looks like they've done it over, but we still get emails. Some folks apparently having trouble going up, looking at the tab, and realizing they have to go to the government section. So I figured I would file a motion to see if there's a way to add a link, maybe under the city service request, where people are going to go and they're going to hit either city notifications or city service requests, which is a good thing. But I guess a little bit later on, I started looking at some other communities and their websites, and while we do have a nice website, even something simple like Gunther was mentioning, go to our website or go to lowellrecycle.org. That's not on our website. You had just mentioned the street listing. So maybe a better idea would be to take a look at the website, at least the front page, and maybe it needs to be reworked or revamped after some time. I know it's been, the website page has been the same for quite some time. And if you look at other communities, they have, and I don't know all the language, but they have links and subject titles, things that people want to use frequently. Street listing might be is a good example, rather than having to search certain things, or whether it's minutes, and I know it's all on there, but I just think personally, and I know it's all a matter of taste, maybe we could take a look at it. I don't know, I don't want to make this more of an issue than it is, but maybe we can. Should it go to a subcommittee, or maybe that's too much, but maybe take a look at making it a little bit more user-friendly. And I don't want to say that because it's not user-friendly, but it seems that if you look at some other communities, they have a little bit of a different approach, and maybe we can take a look at some of those ideas. So that was the intent of the motion.
Thank you, Councilor Elliott. Anyone else on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Last motion by Councilor Murphy. Motion requests the city manager provide analysis of the Mass Housing Development Incentive Program and the potential guidelines on its application. Second by Councilor Martin. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had mentioned this program somewhat earlier at an earlier subcommittee meeting, but it might have been forgotten because it was mentioned right at the end of the meeting. But it was a piece of legislation passed in 2010, but I think maybe still in sort of the early stages of its own development. And this is really just asking for an evaluation of its appropriateness for the city of Lowell, and whether with some more guidelines put in place on the city's part, whether that might make it a better fit for addressing some of the earlier motions that had been made, addressing the intent behind them anyway, to facilitate the rehabilitation of blighted properties. That with the added incentive that's provided on the state level, that might be put the redevelopment beyond a certain threshold, so that it is really a significant incentive. So to get an idea of how this might work, or better work here in the city, with some guidelines set here with the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Anyone else on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed to the vote. We have one public hearing this evening. Let me have the second reading of the ordinance in City Council ordinance, an ordinance amending the new code of ordinances for the City of Lowell, the code with respect to Chapter 266 thereof, entitled Vehicles and Traffic. Public hearing is now open for anyone wishing to speak in favor. In favor. That portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition. In opposition, public hearing is now closed. What's the wish of the council?
Move for approval.
Move for approval by Councilor Caulfield, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Dakota, Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça, Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor
Yes.
Caulfield, 7 yeas, 2 absent.
Thank you. Before we adjourn, if my colleagues permit, I'd just like to congratulate Councilor Rita Mercier on receiving the Thomas Kalakis Community Spirit Award on Friday night by the Kiwanis Club. It was a very nice event. Both Councilor Mercier and Jeffrey Lambert received the award, so congratulations to both of them. Thank you. Motion to adjourn by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Elliott. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Thank you.
Go South.
7 minutes.